Well, folks, in this edition of the 700 Club, the suffering in Venezuela continues beyond measure. It looks like the electrical grid may be permanently damaged. There's not enough electricity, there's no water, there's no power, there's no the basics of life, and the people are beyond belief. Now it seems as if, President Guaido may be subject to an arrest, and we also understand there are Russian troops in Venezuela. It's a crisis situation. It's like a boil. It's getting ready to break, and something has got to be done. Somebody has got to take action. This cannot continue. The suffering is beyond belief. Well, now here at home, the president says, look, I was going to take Obamacare out and replace it, but it looks like Mitch McConnell says, no way. I don't have the votes in the Senate. I don't have the votes in the House. I'm going to wait till after the 2020 election to bring all that to pass, and then we'll have to wait for it. But bigger battles are on the horizon as Democrats, Nadler and others are preparing sanctions. And it's just amazing how he has changed. In the old days, when it was Clinton being subpoenaed, he said, well, we shouldn't release grand jury testimony. It'll hurt innocent people. Now he wants a hurry up with the Mueller report. Well, CBN Capitol Hill correspondent Abigail Robertson has more on that.
President Trump surprised many GOP lawmakers when he decided to take on Obamacare again and declare Republicans the party of health care.
Well, I made it clear to him we were not going to be doing that in the Senate.
Majority Leader Mitch McConnell wants Senate Republicans focusing on bills to keep health care costs down, not comprehensive replacement plans.
I think the right decision was made to make sure we get our ducks in a row, throw the onus on the industry in the meantime, have senators and congressmen that know a little bit about it, like me, to start prodding the industry, because I think it's going to take more than their own self-correction.
Indiana Senator Mike Braun tells CBN News he thinks Republicans have defended big health care companies long enough, and now they need to come up with their own solution to growing costs.
All Hoosiers, Americans are frustrated with health care as it's being delivered by a so-called free market industry. The fact is it's not. It's got highly concentrated with big companies running the show, and I think that it's incumbent upon the industry, if it doesn't want one business partner with the federal government, to start doing a better job.
Braun told President Trump he'd work with him on a replacement plan, but Democrats say Republicans are bluffing.
The president tweeted that they will come up with their plan in 2021. Translation, they have no health care plan. It's the same old song they've been singing. Therefore, repeal. They have no replace.
Also on the Hill this week, House Democrats issuing a subpoena to expedite the release of the Mueller report, a move that doesn't seem to bother Braun.
I think it would speed the process, and really whether that happens, I think Attorney General Barr will do everything he can to make it as explicit as he can, given the qualifications that he has to adhere to.
The good news for curious Americans is that lawmakers on both sides of the aisle want as much of the Mueller investigation released as possible. Reporting from Capitol Hill, Abigail Robertson, CBN News.
Well, as I mentioned at the top of the show, Venezuela is in crisis, and Venezuela's opposition leader says he could be arrested any time. Be a tragedy, but something's got to be done. He's been recognized now. Most of the nations of the earth recognize him as a legitimate leader of that country. Tragedy, I mean, a human tragedy right to our southern border. John Jessup has more.
That's right, Pat. Dictator Nicolas Maduro had interim President Juan Guaido stripped of immunity from prosecution, leaving him open to arrest for opposing the Maduro regime. And the ongoing standoff in Venezuela is now bringing Russia and the United States to a head-to-head. Russia supports Maduro, reportedly sending in troops and military equipment. President Trump saying forcefully from the Oval Office, Russia must get out of Venezuela. Meanwhile, blackouts continue to hammer the country, sending desperate people across the border to Colombia. As Chuck Holton reports from Cúcuta, Operation Blessing is there to help.
Venezuela's electrical grid is nearing a total collapse following historic power outages last month. Experts say the aging infrastructure could be damaged beyond repair. So too is the patience of the people suffering days on end without lights, water, or communications. So this is the public hospital here in Cucuta, and this place is just overwhelmed right now because there are so many Venezuelans coming in for treatment. Since there are almost no hospitals in Venezuela who can treat people that need dialysis, pregnant mothers, people with gunshot wounds, it doesn't matter. They're all coming across the river and coming to this hospital for help. The hospital has already spent more than $15 million treating Venezuelans who can't afford to pay. For those unable to get to Colombia, power outages bring deadly consequences. This man lost his wife.
She died because there was no assistance in the hospital. There were no medicines, so the love of my life just died, the mother of my children. I've had enough of this government. They are killing us with hunger, with no health care, and now I'm not afraid anymore. Do what you want to me, Maduro. You killed my wife. Go ahead, kill me.
Into this desperation, Operation Blessing is bringing hope. Just across the border, this OB distribution center gives out medicine and other supplies to refugees, many traveling from deep inside Venezuela to get here.
We waited from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. to be seen by our doctor back home, and she told us the baby needed antihistamines, but there weren't any available. If I had left him there, he would have died without a doubt, because there, neither the doctors nor the hospitals are working.
As Operation Blessing serves the desperate here, the needs are even greater inside Venezuela.
It's too bad you can't bring these medicines to the Venezuelan side, because for sure the people there need it so much. It's sad to see. Here you can help me, but those people can't get help because they can't get across.
From Cucuta, Colombia, I'm Chuck Holton for CBN News.
Thanks, Chuck. Pat, such palpable desperation there in Venezuela.
You know, I've said before, we're sending humanitarian aid. Operation Blessing is sending in medicine, first aid, formulas, solar lights, safe water solutions, anything to help those people. And you can participate if you want to by the address is Operation Blessing Disaster Relief Fund, and we're there to help the people. But I've said it before, I say it again, there's only one way you get rid of a thug that's holding people hostage. They've got hostages, and how do you get rid of them? Well, sooner or later, you send in a SWAT team, and you take those thugs out. And sooner or later, we've got to do something. We've got drones, for example. You could probably, with a drone strike, get rid of Maduro. I mean, something's got to be done to help those people. And I really believe, there comes a time where you just cannot allow a situation like that to fester anymore. And the OAS should do something. They ought to get together and do something. But it may be that they're waiting for their big North American brother to take the lead. And certainly with drones, we could do something with drones. And they've got those Hellfire missiles that can terrify people. And you speed the process very quickly. Well, CBN Chief Political Analyst David Brody is with us now. And David, back to that health care thing, the president was saying the Republicans are going to be known as the party of health care, and now they've switched. What do you think the deal is?
Well, a couple of things are going on here, Pat. First of all, let's start with the political aspect of all of this. There are sources close to the White House and some actually inside the White House saying absolutely 100% from a political perspective, President Trump wants to take this issue, health care, away from the Democrats. I know it sounds pie in the sky. I know this has been the Democrats' issue for a while, but President Trump believes the Republicans can own the health care issue, and that's why he's doing this. But I think if you go deeper, Pat, what the understanding after talking to multiple sources this morning and late into the evening last night, basically, rather than punting the health care until after 2020, what many of my sources are telling me is that the president now is just clarifying, that's the word they're using, clarifying the fact that there's no reason to come up with any sort of health care plan right this moment until after 2020. That's when they'll do it, because they think the political terrain, they hope, will be better then. And why go through a health care, how do I say this, a health care avenue right now if Democrats are in control of the House. Doesn't make much sense. And so that has been scaled back. And this is what Donald Trump typically does. He kind of blasts certain things out on Twitter, and then they roll it back until they figure out how to figure it out.
David, in addition, it looks like he was talking about he was going to close the southern border with Mexico. He realizes now that there was going to be incredible economic damage if he does that. Well, what's the status on that?
Right, so it's an active status, and what I mean by that is that there's negotiations going on right now inside the White House and with many other governmental agencies trying to figure out the best course of actions from an economic standpoint. So what you may see, Pat, is that the border is closed at certain ports of entry. In other words, civilian ports of entry where cars come in, but not shipping ports of entry, and that would be the difference. So would there be a full closure of the border? No, but they would basically cherry pick the certain spots that they need to close the border in. And what the White House officials are telling me is that they need Customs, Border and Patrol, CPB, out there. Those officers not at the ports of entry. They need them in the desert, is what they say, because of the influx. And why are we having such a big influx? Well, let's be honest. The summer's coming. We've got the nice spring weather down there compared to the summer, and that's why we're seeing quite a bit of the influx right now at the southern border.
The last thing, you know, there were all those phony FISA warrants. They were working off of a dossier that was prepared by the Democrats. It was just incredible. The FBI and the Justice Department got all this Mueller investigation ginned up on account of phony Christopher Steele documents. The president says there ought to be an investigation of that, how that probe started. What do you think about that?
Pat, I just got off the phone with two sources, both that are very close to the situation, close to the White House and close to DOJ. Both tell me that this is going to be looked into, but whether or not there's an actual special counsel appointed, different matter. They don't think so. They don't think a special counsel will be appointed. Now, having said that, there may be what they call an IG report, that Inspector General report. In other words, an internal DOJ investigation into what happened. But there's a difference, as you know, Pat, between that and a special counsel actually being appointed. The two sources that I'm talking to, and they are very, how do I say this, high-ranking and up there that would know what they're talking about. They don't think a special counsel ultimately will happen here, Pat.
Well, thanks, David. I totally agree with that. I hate those special counsels. I think it's, as one expert was saying on this program, most of it's unconstitutional.